Well, I'm so excited, Kelly, to have you today on the podcast. I know we have some great topics that you are going to share with everybody listening that I am really excited about because I know it's going to be such an eye opener as we go a little deeper into energy and our body. And I know you do a lot with pelvic floor health, and we're going to talk about it. But because we talk already a lot about pelvic floor on on this podcast, I was like, Kelly, we have to talk about some deeper stuff that we really haven't talked about. And I love geeking out about all of this. So I would love to have you start with, just so our listeners can get to know you a little bit better, we just share a little bit of your story, and then we'll get going with our awesome topics we have planned for today.
Absolutely. One, thank you for having me. I have listened to many of your podcasts and it's just fantastic. And I'm always like, yes. I could have a conversation for hours with her. So here we go. So my background is as a physical therapist. And that was way back in 2000 that I got my master's in physical therapy. And then I had my own healing journey with pelvic pain. And that is what rocked my world personally and professionally. I started trying to heal my pelvic pain with everything I knew to do, nutrition and movement, and was like getting nowhere. And I didn't understand. I thought I was doing everything perfect. So finally, after months and months, I surrendered. And that's when when I say surrendering into a level of consciousness that I just didn't understand before. I wasn't aware of emotions. I wasn't aware of my soul and my spirit talking to me. I wasn't, if you told me I'd be teaching about mind, body, emotion, soul 15 years ago, I'd be like, are you nuts? Like, what? I don't even know what you're talking about. So my surrendering to my journey is what led me into this. Now it's the neuroscience, it's the epigenetics, it's the quantum physics, it's human potential. There's so much science around our ability to heal ourselves. And this is, I didn't learn any of this in school, especially emotions. And that's emotions and connecting with my intuition were two of the biggest aha healing things that I had to learn. And one of the biggest challenges was not only learning it intellectually, because I was really good at that. I was a straight A student and I would study and do it all and learn it all, but it was integrating it into my being. And that was hard. That took practice and failing and getting messy. And I had practiced all my life controlling everything so I didn't mess up. And that's what I find with a lot of women that I work with now, is it's us, the type A, we've been conditioned to be very masculine, which I know you want to talk about, the feminine and masculine. We've been so conditioned in our world to be go, do, compete, that it causes us to tense and be outside of our true self. Even that term to me 15 years ago was like, true self. I'm just being me. Like, what are you talking about? So I find that so many of us live in that masculine being, causing us to tense and work hard and not get sleep, killing our body, leading to dis-ease. And I could ramble on here. So you let me know where you want to go first with all this stuff.
No, I love it. And I think so much of what you're saying, it also resonates with me. And I know, especially the intuition part, it's something that I've personally always let guide me in my life. And the times that I actually didn't really listen or trust my intuition is when I actually didn't make the best decisions. And I think for the longest time, I didn't recognize it as intuition. And so it's been very interesting, and I loved our conversation we had the other day. I'm like, we should have probably recorded some of that, but this is all good. And so and this is something that I'm weaving into more of my messaging that I'm teaching. And I get a lot of women that are like, I don't really know, Erica, like when you say intuition, like, what does that feel like? What does that look like? Like, I would love, how about you? Could I have you share like your perspective? Because I know it can feel and be a little different for all of us, but at the end of the day, when we find our intuition and let it shine through and let it help to guide us, life is just goes so much better.
Yep. Yep. We're not working against our soul. And the way that and that's one of the things in the work that I do with women now, is teaching them what that feels like. And for so many of us, we have become dissociated from the feelings in our body, whether it was traumas, toxins in the food and the world. There's just so much that gunks up our fascia and our physical body, and we literally don't feel. So teaching women, and I had to learn this too, how to first just sense and feel the body, and then listening for when we feel what lights us up. And it's really actually so simple. If we could just pay attention, get out of our heads and pay attention to what makes us feel, allows us to feel light and expansive, like we're following the hell yeses, our joys, what we would do and be and think if all the things we think we need to do were taken care of. Would we go out and do art in nature? Would we move our body and dance to music? Following the lightness, following what lights us up. And something that I know with my journey is I was so focused, whether it was conditioning from a young age, from parents, and again, well-meaning parents, but our subconscious is programmed from 0 to 7, as I know you know. And those subconscious beliefs lead us to be a certain way. And my belief was play is a waste of time. I need to be working towards success and achieving, again, the masculine, as opposed to feeling and sensing and playing and joy. And when we don't learn to experience the lower level emotions, or the so-called negative emotions or survival emotions, when we don't allow those because we've been conditioned to believe they're bad, or again, masculine, feminine, we want to feel the emotions, but many boys and girls have been taught by fathers and mothers to not show the emotions because that's weak. And that's what I learned. So not consciously, if you said to me, do I process emotions 15 years ago? I was like, sure, I did. I lived putting a happy face on. I didn't get that, we actually have to learn to feel and sense the emotion, and we can let it move through us, or it gets stuck in our tissues, and literally residues get stuck in our tissues and our fascia.
You want to talk about that a little bit more? Because
absolutely,
I say it, but let's chat briefly more about it, because what you just said is so powerful. And I always explain this to my students, especially in core rehab, because we start with a lot of pelvis movement. And it can bring up emotions. And all of a sudden, she might just feel like she needs to cry. And I'm always like, instead of like, let me rephrase that. Instead of like feeling like you need to push it back inside, like allow it to be there and allow yourself to cry. Or maybe you actually feel a little angry. They actually say there's a lot of pain and dysfunction in our body is actually held on more as anger. It can come up as tears. And so it's very interesting to me, but we have to start to be more aware of like, when things are coming up for us emotionally, are we like unconsciously shoving them back in, or are we actually consciously allowing them to surface? Because, and I know you'll agree with me 100% on this, is like when that stuff is showing up, when we actually have awareness to it, it's like, I believe it's the body saying, hey, like, listen to me, like you need to pay attention. And it just gets louder and louder and louder until we actually address it.
Absolutely. And that's what, looking back in my own personal journey and with every single woman I work with, they had whispers. We've all had whispers way before that intense pain stopped us in our tracks. So with emotions, we emotions are there to guide us. They're energy in motion. They're literally, it's our soul speaking to us saying, here's the next step. It's giving us guidance on that next step. So say we feel sadness, say you're working with a woman and she starts to tear up, and whether it's sadness, anger, we don't even need to name that emotion, but feeling, turning that awareness inside, usually in the torso to feel an emotion, keying in on what that looks like, what it feels like. So say it's a ball of dense energy in the gut. And oftentimes emotion, chakra 2 or energy center 2, the pelvis for women. Psoas muscles, pelvic floor, all that gets gunked up. So say it's a ball of dense energy. We can breathe into that space. Tears can be flowing. And when I was working with patients doing hands-on manual physical therapy work internally and externally in the pelvic floor, being a physical therapist aware of emotions, I opened up space for them to cry, anger, memories would come back. And that's something with creating my program. One of my intentions is to make other physical therapists who aren't aware or comfortable with the emotion aspect of things aware of this stuff. Because I've heard hundreds of times women are in physical therapy, getting manual work done, internal or external for pelvic pain, and they'll start to cry, but they can sense an uncomfortableness of the therapist, and then they hold back. So like that opportunity for healing was just kind of passed by. So with the work I do with women now, I teach them how to do some self-manual work internally using fingers and dilators, externally using hands to move fascia. There's things we can do to get comfortable and heal ourselves or with ourselves before going to a pelvic PT. And I think pelvic PT is fantastic. I've used it myself, but not if it's too soon. If we have things we need to process and release before going into that. And that's something I come into with women too, is the idea of I need to do everything possible to heal myself, and they're reaching outside of themselves. And it is perfectly fine to use modalities, pelvic PT, EMDR, acupuncture, movement, so many things, but only if it comes from that intuitive hell yes. If it's coming from our head saying we need to fix this pain and just get rid of it, most of the time it ends up hurting more than helping.
Because we're resisting it. And then, like you said, that's going more into the masculine energy, or staying in the masculine energy versus moving and balancing it out in the feminine. So let's talk about all this a little bit more, because I know you mentioned it.
Yeah.
But like from a societal perspective, right? I know you already mentioned like where it can easily start to come from, being told by parents like, oh, just suck it up. We don't need to show or express any emotions and blah, 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 blah. But are we seeing it in other areas as well where we're not allowed to, because it's a conditioning thing. So I just love to have you talk about it.
Yeah, there's so much, and especially today. Like, let me describe some feminine and masculine first. I think that will help. And even in our body, we hold feminine on the left side and masculine more on the right side. So it can give me guidance in the pelvis when a woman's having issues on one side compared to the other. But feminine is soft, intuitive, collaboration. Masculine is push, 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 compete. What's another example? I'm totally blanking on other examples right now.
The do is what it is.
Do, yes.
When we're on that hamster wheel of just constantly doing, and the rat race and the busy, 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 that is very masculine.
Yep. And all in our head.
Yeah.
So masculine is very living in our head, whereas feminine is very intuitive based.
And our,
It's just
so
softer.
how like we would explain it, you think? Because if we say masculine is more in the head, then feminine is much more being connected within our body. Yes, kind of, sort of. Or
Yeah, you can say that as long as it's that intuitive sense, that feeling of lightness in our body, as opposed to contraction.
gotcha.
And
Expansion.
it's
Feminine is expansion. Masculine is a little bit more contraction. Yes.
absolutely, absolutely. And we can say it's not that we want all feminine either. We want a balance. Exactly. So and this is not gender based. It can be in every person, he, she, they. It can be feminine, masculine balance is what we want. So for instance, my old being was just go, 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 do, do, do. I had my list every day, check it off. Awesome. Next day. I mean, I was a robot. And again, I see this as uh, what's the word? A thing in all women I work with. You know, it's that type A, do, 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 go, go, go. Now I can have my moments. I feel and sense through my day. I have intentions, not goals that I have to get done, but intentions. And I sense and I feel and I intuitively eat and I intuitively move. So, for instance, movement today, I mean, literally like 2 hours in my movement, we're releasing fascia. Again, it's just something that I know my body still has stuff to release from my 44 years on this earth, 32 of them just in a stress ball in my head, very masculinized. So again, it's a balance of the masculine and feminine that we want. And if we are too masculinized, too go, 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 too busy, 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 too in our head, too competition, it's going to show up in the pelvic bowl. So the pelvic bowl, yes, it includes tissues, it includes muscles, but also energetically, we have the first 3 energy centers. And we now know those energy centers, those chakras, it's not just this woo-woo thing. Each of those chakras, 1, 2, and 3, the first 3 ones, all of them that we have hormones in them. They're their own little brain. So we can think of each one of those energy centers as a little brain with different hormones being released. And our intention is to bring balance, or I like the word harmony better, to each one of those centers. So feminine and masculine energy being held left and right, that also gives us guidance on the balance in that pelvic bowl. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So, Kelly, I
Yeah.
have a question then. So,
Yeah.
what are some of your first words of wisdom for women listening? Because I know a bulk of them, like probably 90% of them listening, are probably on the more masculine side, type A, do, 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 because I have conversations with a lot of them. And it's a lot of the same things, right? It's teaching me how to get out of our to-dos and our rat race, and how do we get as much as done as we need to get done in like the same amount of time. And it's absolutely possible. And it's funny because before I got on the call with you today, I was just thinking, I was like, wow. And one day this week that was really weird and off for me. I think it was a little hormone related. But then I was like, you know what? I feel like I'm way more productive than I used to be. And I actually have a lot more space, right? Because I have really worked, and I'm not perfect at it. It's not about perfection, but I've been
Exactly.
being a lot more in alignment with what is important to me, right? So the things
Huge.
I'm doing are super aligned and super big priorities in my life or in my business, whatever it is. I know that's a part of it. I don't want to steal that from you, but I want to hear from you. What are some of your first words of wisdom for women? Because I know it's like an evolution. We're all on this journey, and everyone's at a different place, and so it's like sometimes I feel like And I know you probably agree with me, the more you kind of enter this world of being more aware of our body and energies and everything that's going on, it's like the more you start to learn, you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much more to explore and know. But it's
Exactly.
exciting when you start to feel, not just notice that there's a shift, but like really feel the difference. So.
Yeah, yep. And that's exactly it. Like this journey, I feel it's so fascinating because it's a lifelong, like I call it healing lifestyle design. It's not do this program and you will heal in 3 months. It's I'm giving you the lessons and skills for you to integrate for the rest of your life, really.
You just stole the words out of my mouth, because that's what I'm always trying to explain to people with what I teach.
What you were talking about was with being very intentional with what you choose. That's a huge thing that I talk to women about. One of the first things, and I told you I want to link this guided meditation that I created for your audience.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah. And it was something that really, like I had been trying meditation and trying to work really hard, again, very masculine, to meditate. And you just can't work really hard to meditate. And what you were saying
I've been there too. I'm like, wow, we have like this kind of similar progression in some.
Well, I think it is. I think it's most women today because we think like that's how we do something. We work hard at it. The more hours we spend just sitting there, the more we're going to get out of meditating. But that's not true. So this guided meditation, just one of the biggest things we have to do is get into that subconscious level so that we can reprogram. So that's one of the points of the guided meditation. I'm going to go off on a tangent here. We have to get into that subconscious level to be able to reprogram those limiting beliefs, any of those things that are causing us to be the way we've been for so many years. But it also, even before we're able to start reprogramming the subconscious, it just gives women a moment to pause every day. So as you said, masculine, go, 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 busy, busy, busy. Most women have every second of the day planned and scheduled. This is you're forced to stop for at least 15 minutes. And at first you get more anxiety slowing down and stopping. Like I have things to do. But then as you start connecting more with yourself, the big question is, what can I let go of? Before the question is even, what do I need to do more of? Because that's usually the first question. What do I need to do to heal? What do I need to do more of? Oh, meditate for 10 hours. No, look first at what you can let go of. What causes you stress? What causes you that contraction as opposed to the expansion? So number one, what can you let go of and allow it to be from your heart and soul? Keep the things that light you up. Let go of the things that don't light you up. Another huge one is play. So play, nature, running around with kids. Dogs are amazing for this. And I got my first dog as an adult 4 years ago. So I was well past the healing journey, the midst of it. But he brought out so much play and joy. I also have 2 boys, but they were a little bit older at this point, so it wasn't as much play. I have 2 boys now who are 11 and 14, and they were absolutely my gurus during my healing journey. My older son even said to me one day, "Mom, you need to play more." Sorry for the background there. Everyone's home doing Zoom school and working from home, so that's life right now. But my older son said to me, "Mom, you need to play more. Stop taking life so seriously." And he was like 4. So it was like this big, like, oh my God, I do. And my belief when I was younger was, oh, I need to be serious. I need to not waste time playing. Playing's a waste of time. Like even as a little girl, I can remember thinking that. So being aware of beliefs around play, even art. So at one of the very down points in my healing journey, I was literally living in my robe, couldn't wear underwear, couldn't wear pants, couldn't work, didn't even leave the house other than to walk outside in nature just to ground my feet occasionally. So going from this person who had an identity as a movement person, I was using Pilates, yoga, and gyrotonic to treat patients. Literally at one point I was in a skirt, still trying to help these people when I was in crazy pain, but I had so much shame around it that I wasn't telling anybody. So I'm going off on tangents again. Always do.
Okay, so Kelly, let's shift. I want to have you talk a little bit about our inner child and what does that mean and what can that do for us?
Yeah, and this is a huge one. So say one exercise I often have women do it's called trauma timeline. So we all have traumas, some of them so-called smaller ones, some of them bigger ones. So it could be one trauma for me when I was in 6th grade, a boy gave me a Valentine's card with a pig on it. And to me, that was, I'm fat. Oh my gosh. And so if we have women connect with this inner child, so say I connected with myself at that 6th grade version of me, and I uncovered the emotion I felt after receiving that card and the thoughts that I developed after receiving that card, what and who was I after that moment? So one of the exercises we do is going into the subconscious level. So doing a guided meditation or theta brainwave music or alpha brainwave music, going back to that 6th grade version of me, connecting with that emotion and the thought and reprogramming it. And doing that for a few days, a few sessions of that, and then looking at who you are instead as you go through the ages. So we have these inner children at various ages. It could be memories that we don't consciously remember. It could be when we're most easily programmed between 0 and 7. If somebody has had a sexual trauma, I've even worked with girls who are sexually abused in their teenage years, and we're able to work backwards and reprogram that from that age. But again, has to be in that subconscious realm to reprogram. And I
have a question
yeah.
about doing this work. 2 of them actually. So one is, what if somebody gets a sense that there was something and they don't know what it is, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm of the belief that you can heal past things even if you don't know exactly what it is. I think we don't have to go. Sometimes because I think some things out there teach, right? You have to we've got to figure out what it is. We've got to bring it up from the subconscious into the conscious brain. But I don't believe that you actually do. If our intention is there, that we can do a lot with that. So are you in agreement with that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, okay. I agree. Now, that said, I am not a neuroscientist, and I'm not even a therapist in that realm. I'm a coach. I'm a guide. I don't know the neuroscience. I don't know what a neuroscientist would say, but something I dream of is having a neuroscientist in my cozy little world that I can ask these questions to easily and have a podcast around that. So I also, the way I know it now from the latest research that I'm aware of, we don't need to dive deep into all the details of every single past issue to get further ahead in the future. Okay. So I agree with that.
Okay. So the next question then on this is, I guess it probably also is a little dependent upon the women's situation, but you typically recommend if women are either know they have a past trauma, especially something that was pretty big and a major event, or, that they work with someone helping them through this, or even that even
Yes.
cases that small, because like you said, and that this word, I always tread lightly with this word, and I know you do too. The word trauma is very, um, it's a very big, bold, blanketed statement. And like you said, you remember this Valentine's card you got, and it was like very harmless. And we don't typically think of those things as quote a trauma. It's a little
Yep.
trauma, but it made an impact. And so I just think that the way that traumas get talked about, I don't know, it's kind of all over the place. But anyway, I guess my biggest point is no matter how big or how small, like, do you recommend that women find someone to help coach them, or a therapist? Like, I don't think it always has to be a therapist. I think it needs to be someone who is very connected energetically more than anything, actually.
Yeah. And in my own experience during my journey, I worked with a psychotherapist and saw some professionals during my journey and had so much less success with them compared to the coaches that I worked with. And I'm not saying it's that way for everybody, because I also know very gifted therapists that have helped people immensely. So it also is up to the person. So what I've found is two people who have the same trauma, big, small, whatever, one person can easily move through and shift those emotions and thoughts subconsciously or beliefs, and another person stays stuck in it. And that person that stays stuck, sometimes maybe EMDR, other therapies, that tapping. There's so many things out there that absolutely, hey, experiment with this and see how that is on your journey. We can't figure it all out ourselves sometimes. So again, connecting with that intuition, like, okay, I realize I'm stuck. I need someone to guide me through this. So yes.
Can you explain what EMDR is? I mean, I'm familiar with it. I haven't done it, but I've
Yeah.
heard amazing things about it.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know that much about it either. It's something that I know I haven't even done it myself. But so after COVID, I'm going to do it after this whole COVID shutdown thing, because so many women have had great experiences with it that I've worked with, but I haven't done it myself. But from what I hear and know, it helps you shift that subconscious level much faster. And just like you were talking about, not knowing the exact trauma, it can help you move through things without having to pinpoint, dwell on past stuff. But I'm not that knowledgeable on it.
Okay. No, I was just curious if you did much with it, because I've heard amazing things, but I haven't personally done it. So
Well, let's do it after COVID and we'll see what our results are.
sounds good. Um, Anything else you want to add about inner child work, or is that pretty much wrapped
Uh,
for the most part?
it, I think that inner child is a huge, so for instance, in the program I created, there's a module on beliefs. And a lot of it is getting to those subconscious beliefs that sometimes, again, we don't even know in our conscious mind. So the trauma timeline and connecting with yourself at those different ages, the inner children that you hold within you, and they're always within you. So, for instance, when I work with women who have been sexually abused, it could be 60, 50 years later. Most of the time they've named that inner child from whatever age, and they've been carrying that struggle all those years. So I feel that's a fantastic way to uncover the limiting beliefs that have been guiding your actions, because your beliefs lead to your moment to moment thoughts. Your moment to moment thoughts lead to how you feel in your emotions. That leads to your actions and choices, which leads to the results in your life. So if you uncover, okay, I don't like this thought, or this thought's making me uncomfortable. We got to connect back and uncover that limiting belief that is at the root of the thought. Do you like that? Do you like my dog banging in the background?
Oh, is that what it is? It sounds like someone's like banging on your door.
It's just my two little dogs.
Oh
It does make things like this a little, I'll close this door.
That's okay.
A little crazy. We have a little shed in the back, and I'm always like, one day I'm going to make that into a recording room.
I know, that's why I live here. This is the quietest place in the house. So,
and I know you have 3 kids and a dog.
yes. Okay.
Oh.
Okay, so let's loop back. What were you saying about? I kind of forgot where we were at.
Yeah, we were talking about the inner child,
Yes,
but just the idea that it's a great way to uncover the limiting beliefs. Sorry, I'm taking off my cozy boots.
Yeah, so like, and I'm talking more and more about the beliefs as well, because I recognize that's where, and it can be hard initially to think like, our logical brain will want to say, oh, well, but I don't have that belief, whatever it is that's kind of coming up for you, or someone might say something. And I always say, like, it's like, there's maybe some resistance or a little like feeling that doesn't feel so good that's coming up for you. And it's like, ooh, that's the stuff you need to go explore and figure out what kind of belief might you have that is actually standing in your way of reaching a certain goal, or getting to that, shedding another layer, or learning whatever it is you're supposed to be learning. Because so many times we get so fixated on like, oh, it's just like, and this is why I always talk about being open, right? The more you can just be open to life and things that are going on, the more easily you're going to be guided by your intuition, because it actually is getting us out of our head, right? Versus us being so like, oh, nope, this is the way, and this is the way I've always done it, so it's the way I'm going to continue to do it. But then we wonder why we're not making the progress in our life, or in our goals, or in our weight loss, or our health, or whatever it is. And it's because we haven't gone deeper and done the inner work. And, not everybody has to go work with a therapist or even a coach. A lot of this, some of this you can just do on your own. And it's a lot of what you and I talk about. So I want to ask you, and can we talk a little bit about shadow? I'm a little familiar with like our shadow or shadow work and things like that. So, and I haven't talked about it at all on this podcast, but are you willing to share a little bit? Just to
Absolutely.
bring awareness about it.
And this is the shadows, like the yucky parts of us. Like we all have these parts that we don't want to show, we're embarrassed of, or we even push down so much that we're not even aware of them. And just like you were saying, if we have a way of being that we're controlling, and control again is even that masculine, and living more free and open is more that feminine. If we're controlling everything, most of it comes from these more, I hate the word negative, so-called negative shadow parts of us. But the more we become aware of all parts of us, and this was one exercise I was given during my healing journey, and even going back to the art stuff and play, I took art classes during my journey and all these things, and noticed the thoughts that would come up, and the thoughts were, this is a waste of time. You're not making money doing this. Why are you wasting it? This art sucks. Like all these words that were coming up. So just going back to that play. But that's an example of that shadow part of you that can just tell you suck, you are bad at this, don't do this, don't waste time, and the ego mind. So us witnessing all parts of ourselves helps us to shed those old masks, become aware of the true self. And that's really big picture journey of helping these women with pelvic pain that are working on healing, is the more, and any chronic issue. And I really feel So Western medicine is fantastic. And I'm sure you're going to feel the same way about this. Fantastic for acute stuff. We break an arm, you're going to go to the hospital, get fixed. I had a right hip surgery and I had a labral tear, and that could have been something that even contributed to my own pelvic pain. But there was so much other stuff in there that I had to dive into. So Western medicine is great for that acute stuff, but you got to do that inner work, like you were saying, to shed the masks, the shadows, the inner children that are still believing those old limiting beliefs. And all of this, it's this information to do the inner work is out in the world, but it's all over the place. I mean, I did so many courses and so much that when you're healing too, your brain's not optimally, you have brain fog. It's not optimally working. So to organize it all, I feel like it is good to have a guide to do that inner work. Again, a tangent, but just remembering that if you have a chronic issue, especially one that keeps coming back, do that inner work. Get to the limiting beliefs, get to the emotions, learn how to feel and process your emotions, connect with your intuition on what your next best step is on your journey. We have the answers within ourselves. We just have to get quiet to feel those answers.
Oh, so well said, Kelly. So well said.
Yeah.
You just said that the last statement, that we have to get quiet. And that is so many times like the biggest hurdle to starting all that. Because I know that was, like I said, I've always been a very intuitive person, and the way I see the body and see movement, I'm sure you're similar. People would have, I'd be able to help a client of mine or someone who wasn't even a client, and they'd ask me something about whatever was going on with their body, and I would just like have this answer for them and be like, oh, we need to do this, this, and this. And then if they actually went and did it, they'd be like, oh my gosh, Erica, you helped me more than all these other people I went to. They're like, how do you know this? And I'm just like, just know. Like, I've just always been like that. That's why I'm like so blessed and grateful that like this is what I get to do, because it is just part of it's like just a part of me. It's not even a skill I have. It's a part of me and my soul, right? But for me, when I was working to go even deeper with all of this, get out of, I would say it was, because I said my intuition's always been really pretty good, but it was really quieting the mind, right? The monkey mind chatter. And that for me was hard, because I, like you, am always like, I want to learn more. I want to do more. I'm like, burning the candle at all hours of the day. I've talked about this before. Like, I've done it all wrong in a sense, but doing it all essentially kind of quote wrong, and the way we are kind of conditioned to do, showed me like, hey, okay, you've been there, done that. Now let's actually learn how to get in flow and be aligned and quiet the mind. It's not, I want to clarify this for everyone listening to. It's not about stopping our thoughts, because I think so many times, like in meditation, people think that you have to stop your thoughts. And it's like, it's not about stopping your thoughts. It's about being more aware of really everything that's going on. And like you said, the shadow conversations, or the shadow words that come up. And I talk a lot too about like we have to stop being so hard on ourselves. And when that's happening, we can work to reframe it. We can change and shift any of that. But so many times we don't even know we're doing it until, like you said, we start to actually quiet.
Yeah.
A little more space, get a little more quiet, calm the mind. And it's like, you can start to work on that. That could just be so magical, I think.
And it helps us build resilience. So even if somebody is not having an issue, if you start to integrate these practices to become more aware, you take a moment to get quiet, pause breaks or something throughout the day. I recommend people taking, and just noticing what's going on in the body. You can catch the stress response so much faster. So it's not that, again, this is a lifestyle. This is a way of being. We're going to keep shedding the mask till the day I die. I'm still probably going to have a mask. I'm going to be like, oh my God, finally I'm unmasked. But the more we shed those masks, the more we free ourselves. And that also allows our innate well-being to shine.
I love it. So Kelly, we're going to wrap up here, but I wanted to, in the email you had sent me, I wanted to just read this, and feel free to add any more, but I think this is a very powerful statement where you say, we cannot connect with our intuition when we are eating processed foods, not moving our body, surrounding ourselves with mainstream fear mentality, ads, TV, drinking alcohol, not getting good sleep, and not spending time in nature, etc. And I think that is so well said. It's also this layer of bringing awareness to what are we surrounding ourselves with? What are we watching? What are we listening to? Where are we spending our days? And, I don't know. So I'd love if you want to expand on that even more. I think it's very powerful.
Absolutely. And that's with this program that I created, it has 12 modules, and we go into mind, body, emotion, soul, all that stuff. But there's also the food is medicine part, the movement is medicine, the connecting with nature is medicine, reconnecting with our circadian rhythms, all the rhythms of nature. Because sure, we can connect with mind, body, emotion, soul, but remember that if we're getting toxins from our food, or if we're eating because we believe if I eat this food, this is better than the other one, it still is causing us to block our feelings, our sensations that are intuition within us, the chemicals in the world. And it doesn't mean, like, I absolutely used to be cray about, oh my God, like no toxins whatsoever. And oh my God, I'm not going to go there because it's a toxic world. And once you have kids, it's a little bit more like you have to, like, I can remember the first time being at a playground and somebody wanted to give my son a goldfish. And I was like, oh my God, he hasn't anything toxic like that. Like, don't give him a goldfish. Like one of those little goldfish. So we can be crazy about this stuff, but it's not that either, because that sends us into control issues and more tension and contraction, causing dis-ease. So it takes us back to what we were talking about before, about what we need to let go of. All the things that causes any type of contraction, toxic foods, processed foods, the air in the world, clothing that is chemical. There's so much. So letting go of all of that and choosing just what naturally is like, yeah, I need to do that. That clean food, walking outside in the grass, just returning to the basics of nature, really. Drinking water, getting enough sleep. So much of healing and that healing lifestyle are the basics. But we've lost the basics because we're living in that masculinized world.
Yes, we have. And I feel like and there's so much amazingness that you just said. And I think for everyone listening, it's really, I always say this in my episodes, I'm like, if even just one little thing resonated with you and you can start to work to apply that, or maybe something you hear today that like just reminds you of something, oh, I was working on that before, and I now that we're past the holidays and we're well into the new year, and just those little reminders sometimes can just be so powerful. So thank you so much, Kelly. This has been so good. I know we could keep talking for like another hour or 4, but I want you to share with everyone where they can find out more about you. And I know you have your amazing program, and so can you just share a little bit about all of that?
Absolutely. And I know I'm going to give everybody that guided meditation. And that, again, is something to help you get into your subconscious, give you a little space. And it's only like 15 minutes, so it's not too much time out of your life. That will be linked below. And I'll also give you links to the information I created finally once COVID hit. I've been wanting to create the Pelvic Freedom Method online program forever. I've had many iterations that I've done in person and with groups in person. But once COVID hit, I was not working at the clinic anymore. I had plenty of time. So it's a 12 module program taking women through step by step. It's audios, it's videos, it's PDFs, lessons and action steps on how to get to everything we spoke about today. Get to the mind, body, emotion, soul, harmonize that. Start to take off your masks, uncover your true self, and reconnect with the basics. Food is medicine, movement is medicine, nature, all that good stuff. We do group coaching on a weekly basis. I am totally accessible. Like this, just like your work is your heart and soul, and I can tell that. And I am part of, I think you know this, I'm part of your core rehab, which I absolutely love and recommend to everyone. I do. I love it. And again, every time you're like, Fasha, I'm like, absolutely. So I'm on board with everything you talk about. But what was I saying?
About your program. And where
very accessible. Yes. And just, it's my heart and soul work. It's not work, it's play, and helping women get unstuck, like where I was struggling alone, confused. There's so much good information out there now that we don't have to. People are having pelvic pain, pelvic issues. You don't have to struggle anymore. So it's my dream program that I wish I had when I was going through my stuff. And that's it. So I'll give you all the links to link.
Sounds good. Yeah, we'll put them in the show notes and in the blog and everything. So thank you so much, Kelly. This was so great.
Perfect. Thank you, Erica.